While we wait around for a few minutes for more people to flow in the room, let's please just take a moment to use the chat box and either share something about yourself, where you're located, if you're a parent or a student in high school or university even. Additionally, before we start, you can also ask any questions that you may have before our tonight's interview about myself, Charlie, or the topic in general. So yeah, as more people come in, just feel free to share whatever about yourself, share your job, any questions that you have for Charlie or myself, where you're signing in from. We'd all love to get to know each other before our interview starts. Is anyone signing in from university, from high school? Anyone from UCLA? So yeah, as you just join in, feel free to ask any questions. Tell us where you're from, if you're from the East Coast, if you're from overseas, just to give us a general idea of where everyone's from. Feel free to also share your job, or if you're a student, and what your interests are for this interview. Feel free to just type in the chat. Yeah. If there's any college students or any professionals right now in the Zoom, just feel free to share. I'm personally at UCLA right now, and I'm signing in from the West Coast, California. Got a quiet crowd today. Let's be more interactive, guys. Where are you signing in from? Are you at university right now? What are your curiosities about this interview? Any questions you have beforehand? Costa Mesa, yeah. Charlie's in Costa Mesa, and I'm in Palo Alto. So before we get started, we still have a few minutes. Any questions for Charlie or myself, or anything you want to share about yourself before we get started? All right, so it's about time. Let's begin. That's great. There's so many different people joining in tonight. So before we begin, I'd just like to thank MyT.Coach, AFI, and Dragonfly TV for hosting tonight's event. Today's conversation is going to be an interesting and non-traditional topic, to say the least. Feel free to share questions via the Zoom chat box as we go, and Charlie and I will do our best to bring some of them up when they fit into the flow of our discussion. We hope we can get to all of your questions during our session. So moving on to our special guest. Our guest tonight is Charlie Chang. Many of you have probably seen some of his YouTube videos, where Charlie talks about entrepreneurship and personal finance. Charlie's content has resounded with people from all over the globe, as his channel currently holds an impressive number of almost 1 million subscribers. Charlie and I actually share a similar educational background. We both attended Gunn High School in Palo Alto, and we're just down the road from Stanford. Charlie also graduated from UCLA, where I'm currently attending. Charlie and I first met at the beginning of the pandemic over 2 years ago, and I was so fascinated by his ideas from that first conversation. What made Charlie so interesting was that he was outspoken about wanting to be his own boss and wanting to follow his own passions for a living. After exploring all kinds of interests and business ideas, Charlie now has more than 12 ways of income. As a result, Charlie is very ambitious and gets to do what he enjoys while making over $1 million a year. So that being said, let's dive right in. All right, Charlie, to start, could you perhaps tell us your story about UCLA? What were your initial plans going into UCLA? And perhaps how did your plans change throughout your enrollment there?
First of all, Leo, thanks for having me. And hi, everyone. My name is Charlie. So UCLA. I went into UCLA wanting to be a doctor. So I went in undeclared, but I went undeclared. But my parents really wanted me to become a doctor. So after maybe half a school year, I decided to major in psychobiology. And for the next 4 years, I did the whole pre-med route, took all my prereqs. I tried to shadow doctors, did research in psych at UCLA.
Did labs and whatnot?
Sorry?
You did labs and stuff at UCLA?
Yeah, I
as
did
well?
like psych research.
Mhm.
Yeah. And the whole goal was to just apply to med school and become a doctor.
So what sprouted the change then at your time at UCLA to perhaps deviate from the doctor route?
I've never really enjoyed medicine. So even the thought of needles, blood, I don't like any of it.
Yeah.
I can't even really get shots. I got my vaccines, but I was super scared.
Yeah.
So I think it was always a lot of external pressure for me to become a
Mhm.
doctor. And it was, not it was also my fault because I didn't have a strong enough personality where I was like, hey, I don't want to do this. I want to try other things.
Yeah.
So it's always in the back of my mind, I don't really want to do this, but I'm going to do it because my parents want me to. It's a great career. It's a very traditional path, and
It's
it's
like the safe route.
it's a guaranteed way to, make a good amount of money. So
Mhm.
I took a lot of comfort in knowing that I was going to become a doctor, even though I didn't really want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it all came down to passion is what you're saying. You didn't have the passion for it. So even though you spent 4 years in college, you decided that's not what you wanted to do for the rest of your
Yeah,
life.
I didn't have the passion. Funny story. I even I was an EMT for a little bit, where I got my
Oh.
EMT
Oh, wow.
license, and then I tried to work as an EMT,
Mhm.
and I was so bad multitasking that I didn't even pass my my EMT certification through. Well, I got the license, but when I was training with the company, they didn't pass
Yeah.
me. So I decided I'm just not going to do it, and that was an $11 an hour job. So I got
Yeah.
rejected from $11 an hour job.
And really stressful too, right? Really mentally taxing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Especially if you don't enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So eventually at the same time I
This
was
isn't for
applying to
me.
med school,
Mhm.
I applied to I don't know, 20 schools or something. Got only one interview at UC San Diego. Went to that interview and I, gave them my all, but didn't get in. So after that, I
Mhm.
was like, all right, I'm officially done pursuing this whole
That
med
was the
thing.
final nail in the coffin was not in
Yeah,
med school, might as well go for what I enjoy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So a bit of a segue about college. You're quite well known for your opinions on the education system in America, and specifically the value or lack thereof in attending university. Could you perhaps elaborate on these opinions?
Yeah. I think college is right for a lot of people, especially people that want to go into the more traditional career paths. But for people that don't really know what they want to do, and then you go to college and get a degree like psychobiology, which is what I was.
Mhm.
There's not that much stuff you can do with it. It's not very applicable to like the real world. So after I graduated, I didn't really have any job prospects. And to me, the whole education system is just a little bit outdated. I feel like
Mhm.
it doesn't apply as much for people that want to do business for themselves, or explore different side hustles or businesses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a big believer that college is not right for everyone, and there are also like many better uses for a lot of people's times in terms of like ROI, return on investment, right?
Mhm.
You can go to college for 4 years and get a degree, and that degree could be like pretty worthless in terms of making money, which I
Yeah.
think is why most people want to go to college, right? They want to
Mhm.
make money for themselves. Um, so yeah, there's so many other like high income skills that people can learn in a few months or a year, whatever, that can translate into making the same, if not more money. So
Mhm. And that's especially with the high cost of college, right, in the United States,
yeah,
especially at private schools where you're going into hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt
it is
sometimes
really
for a
expensive.
degree.
And I was lucky enough where my parents paid for my tuition in my
Mhm.
college. So I graduated without any debt. But if I did have debt, man, it would have been a lot more rough after college. I wouldn't have as much money to like build my businesses with.
Yeah.
So really grateful for that. But yeah, the cost of college is really, really big. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like there's so much information that you can learn online these days, on platforms like YouTube. That's where I learned a lot of the side hustles that I eventually ended up doing, both during college and after college. So yeah, there's just a lot of free information, and I feel like more people should take advantage of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So, understanding your feelings on America's education system, can you share anything that you found extremely meaningful while attending UCLA?
Yeah, I mean, going to UCLA, I was surrounded by a lot of really like bright people.
Yeah.
I met a good amount of people, and I got to live out the whole college experience, going to parties, but still
Mhm.
studying hard, all that stuff. So I would say like I still had a great time in college, and I wouldn't like necessarily take it back because I did come out definitely ahead.
Mhm.
But there are many regrets I have with sort of like how I went about college.
Yeah. Yeah.
For example, like I had a long-term girlfriend, and I personally think that's not a smart thing to do while you're in college, because then you spend a lot of time with them
Mhm.
and you don't really, try and eat lunch or dinner with other people. You might not spend as much time trying to network or join different
Mhm.
clubs and all that stuff. So yeah, I do have some regrets with how I did college, but overall, it was a good experience.
Yeah, that makes sense as well.
Yeah.
It's getting your priorities right, while
Mhm.
you're at college, which is a great opportunity to meet
Yeah.
others.
And I think anyone that's going to college, if you don't know exactly what you want to do, like you should be experimenting with a ton of different side hustles.
Mhm.
So I'm really glad because during college, I started doing, I kept doing photography. So I do a lot of portraits and grad shoots. That's how I sort of like made money on my own. I got into like, since we were in LA, I got into modeling. So I would do like commercial print auditions and all that
Mhm.
stuff. Um, I made videos. Um, yeah, just and after
Pretty
school,
much
I
anything you
started
could, right?
tutoring. Yeah, I just did a lot of
Yeah.
stuff because I knew that like I still wanted to work for myself in some way. And I've always just been like really into sort of like being my own boss.
Yeah, yeah. The
Um,
freedom.
yeah.
Mhm. So, speaking about the hustle life, there's a question from the chat from Leo. He asks, "What can a college student do to start or get into the hustle life? Do you have any advice on specific hustles?"
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think I would try and do some type of high income skill. And what that means is basically anything where you can charge like a pretty significant amount hourly, right? So everything that I've tried to do both during and after college has been like I look for things that pay a good amount. So
Mhm.
photography, let's see, tutoring. I did that for a couple of years after college. Video, you could do video editing. There's like copywriting, um, email marketing, so many different things like that you guys can learn in 1 to 3 months just online for free,
All the
and then you do it for
certifications, right?
clients. Sorry.
All the online certifications. You can
Yeah,
just
you
get
don't even
those.
need like a certification, right?
Mhm.
Like you can just literally learn yourself. People that hire you don't care about your education or like what experience you have really,
Mhm.
besides the results that you can get them. So as long as you're good, then like I think that's a good type of hustle to pursue in college, especially since
Yeah.
you don't have that much time, right? You can't work 8 hours a day while still attending
Mhm.
school. So you might as well make as much money as you can in a couple of hours, versus working like a more minimum wage job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Another question from the chat from Ethan. He asks, "What advice would you give specifically to incoming freshmen who are looking into to enter business or entrepreneurship?"
Yeah. So same thing. Try and think of some types of side hustles you can do to start making money on your own. I think that's huge because action, you guys, is like super important. And you'll probably fail some of these side hustles. Some of them won't end up working out that well. But I probably failed like, I don't know, 20 plus times in my life, just like doing so many different things, and just like some of them fall off, some of them just like
Mhm.
don't work. I've lost 20 something $1,000 on one of my businesses. Um, but yeah, just go in with the intent to like try different side hustles, and then of course network and meet new people and surround yourself with people that are sort of like-minded.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. That definitely makes
if you
sense.
if you want to be an entrepreneur but all your friends are working normal jobs, then it's very hard to be like sort of like inspired or to have like that like accountability, right? I actually didn't have like entrepreneurship friends until uh like I'm trying to think, 8 or 9 years after I graduated college. So I was always surrounded by like very smart people that went into traditional careers. And so I always felt really out of place.
Yeah.
And I think like if I had a better environment that was more suited to what I wanted to do, I would have gone, I would have started making money a lot faster, and I would have like seen a lot more success.
Mhm. Yeah. So now another question from Kelvin in the chat. He asks if you make similar amounts of income from both your content creation as well as your private work, or if one is supplemental to the other.
So most of my income comes from a bunch of different things sort of relating to my personal brand. So like all the content I make. Um, a majority of the money I make comes from my personal brand. So the content I make and how I'm able to monetize that. But until like 2019, 2020, a majority of the money I was making all came from these like service-based businesses, where I would do a service for a client and then they would pay me that way. And it was
Mhm.
mostly tutoring and photography.
Yeah. Now another question in the chat from Brian. He asks that he's heard of side hustles and that a lot of people in college who are currently talking about it all the time. The thing about it is that a lot of the ideas on the internet seem saturated or sometimes even just a scam. And he asks if you ever had these feelings when you first started off in college as an entrepreneur.
Well, um, back when I was in college, I think the whole side hustle thing was a lot less prevalent.
Hmm.
So just the fact that like a new college student can even think about doing side hustles and make internet money or do service-based business is like really amazing. Like, so if you
Yeah.
start right now, you'll be way ahead of me, right? I feel like I got a pretty late start in entrepreneurship. So props on that first. But yeah, there are like things that were more sketchy in terms of making money online.
Mhm.
I wouldn't recommend, doing drop shipping. I just feel like that whole business model is a little bit flawed and not really that ethical.
Okay.
Um, However, you can still learn a lot from it. Like I even tried doing it before, I failed.
Mhm.
But I'm trying to think. Yeah, like if you do a service-based side hustle, I really think that is going to be how most people start entrepreneurship. So, like doing some type of service for someone, like tutoring or whatever. Like if you guys
Mhm.
are good at the SAT, or if you're good at like standardized testing and stuff like that, you can easily charge like a good amount of money
For
to
tutoring.
tutor
Yeah.
students. Yeah.
Yeah. So Yushi asks in the chat if this means that you're a freelancer and if this means that you buy your own health insurance and perks and whatnot.
So I'm completely self-employed. And you will also be too if you just do side hustles in college or whenever. Like you're by default a sole proprietor. So any money you make, you have to, of course, pay taxes on it.
Yeah.
You have to get your own health insurance. But I think most people that are in college are going to be covered by their parents' insurance until they're 26 years old.
Hmm.
But yeah, after that, health insurance can be pretty expensive. Like I'm
Yeah.
paying I think I'm paying $699 a month for my insurance right now. But that's like the most expensive one.
Hmm.
There's cheaper options like as low as maybe $200. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Now moving on to another question. How did your parents and friends influence your decision to work for yourself?
I didn't grow up in like a really entrepreneurial household. So I never viewed business as something that was possible for me to do. And same thing, like I mentioned before with my friends, like not many of my friends like wanted to work for themselves.
Hmm.
So I did have like there wasn't that whole entrepreneurship like guidance that I really wish I had when I was growing up. And yeah, I remember after college, I was still trying to figure out what things I was trying to do while applying to med school and all that stuff. And yeah, my parents were super, super worried, and like it makes sense because I really
Yeah.
didn't have like a trajectory.
Hmm.
I was still just trying out a bunch of different things.
Because the future
So
was uncertain, right?
yeah, I was very uncertain, right? Like I was doing like Amazon FBA, I was doing tutoring, I was still doing photographs and stuff like that. So not like a lot of long-term career things that most, I think, immigrant parents would think of as like desirable or
Yeah.
successful, right? So yeah, it makes sense they were worried, but I think eventually if you like try enough things, one thing is going to work out. So
Hmm.
luckily that happened to me.
So just don't be dissuaded by failure and keep trying new things, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
babies like babies keep failing at walking, right? Like they
Hmm.
try so many times, and they just keep
Yeah.
trying again. I feel like adults, if they fail a few times at something, a lot of people like just get discouraged and they just don't want to try anymore.
Hmm.
And yeah, like as long as you learn from that failure and you're able to take those lessons and use them on your next business venture or whatever you're trying to do, then let's say you have like a 10% higher chance of succeeding due to those lessons you learned. Then just
Hmm.
those just compound over time and you become like a pretty good entrepreneur that way.
Yeah. Yeah. So now another question from Yushi in the chat. They ask if you plan to grow your business by employing other people,
Yeah.
and if so, why?
Okay. Yeah. Right now I do have I have a team of like maybe 8 or 9 people. Um, I have one full-time assistant who helps me with everything.
Hmm.
And then I have a team of editors and writers and yeah, I think that's most like, oh, thumbnail people. Um, yeah, a team of like 8 or 9 people.
Hmm.
I do think like I was self-employed, like literally just me for so many years. And I think that is important. I'm the
Yeah.
type of person that doesn't like to delegate things. So that was very unnatural for me. I just like want to do every task myself, right? And that is good because you learn to do everything. You learn all these different skills. So I'd say I'm like pretty well-rounded right now. Um, but eventually, if you do want to like make more or grow your business even more, then it's really, really important to delegate and trust other people to do things, and sort of become like a team leader, right? So I
Yeah.
feel more like a manager slash like business now than I did a couple of years ago before I started hiring people.
Yeah. Because there's only so much you can do on your own. And of course, other people are better at a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, like
Yeah.
your time is limited, so realistically, you can't work like over 10 to 12 hours a day, right? Unless you're gonna burn out at some point.
Yeah.
So like at some point you'll want to spend, an hour per day delegating tasks or
Hmm.
building out a team, building out processes and systems.
Yeah.
And then those people will be working throughout the day as well, or even when you're sleeping if you're hiring overseas.
Hmm.
And yeah, my goal is to get like, I track the number of hours people work, and my goal is to like have a team that does like at least 30 hours per day, so that like, so every day I'm working, they're also putting in 30 hours, and
Hmm.
the business can just like go a lot faster.
Yeah. Yeah. So now another question from Kelvin. He asks if you feel like your window of opportunity was smaller than entrepreneurs who started at an earlier stage in their life, and he asks if this is discouraging for you at the beginning.
Okay, so let's see. Um, so right now, a lot of my friends are way younger than me. I'm 30 years old, by the way. A lot of friends of mine are like between 20 to like 25, and they all got started way earlier than me. So it is it's something, it's one of my insecurities, like my age compared to a lot of my friends. And I did get started pretty late. But like, I think I had more experience starting this late from doing so
Hmm.
many things like myself, and that does give you an advantage. And yeah, like it doesn't matter when you start. You can't change like the timing of
Yeah.
everything, so we can't go back in time. So no matter your age right now, like if you're trying to get into entrepreneurship,
Hmm.
just like start.
You
Like,
have to roll with it. Yeah.
yeah,
You can't
and
change it. Just roll with it.
yeah, let's say you're 50 years old, right, or 60. Like you still can build a really awesome business,
Hmm.
and you probably have more experience than a lot of really young people. So maybe your chances of success are higher. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah. Now another question from Leo. He asks, "What would you say is the most effective way to network?"
Um, the way I used to do it was I would follow people that I want to be like on Instagram,
Hmm.
and it's kind of weird because you're building like this parasocial relationship with someone that doesn't know you,
Yeah.
but like think about the type of life you want to live, and then go find people that are literally living that life and follow their Instagram, because they'll post stories, so you can sort of see a like a curated behind the scenes look into their life,
Hmm.
right? It sort of gives you an idea of like the daily activities they do. Like they'll probably give you some advice through their stories or their
Yeah.
posts. So that's how it got started, and that's like one of the main things that really got me first like really inspired to like go all in on
Hmm.
business and like work for myself. It's just from like following people that I want to be like, and that were killing it. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's not
So
really
reaching out on social
networking.
media,
Yeah, you
you'd say
can
that's the
reach out
best
on
way.
social media. You can join, like if you're in college, you can join campus groups. I really wish I did that. I know like
Hmm.
most colleges, I think every college is going to have some type of entrepreneurship group. So definitely do that. Like, yeah, meet people online. There's tons of Facebook groups that you can join.
Hmm.
Um, if you're Asian, there's a Facebook group called Asian Hustle Network. I don't know if anyone's heard of it, but there's a ton of Asian entrepreneurs in that group. Yeah, tons and tons of opportunities to network.
Hmm. Yeah, that sounds really great and
Yeah,
easy for anyone
but
to do because it's just
yeah,
following
I'd say
someone on
like
social media.
the biggest thing like is the people you hang out with most. Like if you want to be held accountable and want like to bounce ideas off your friends, then like you should hang out with people that want to do the same.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now another question from the chat from Eason. He asks if you have any advice on how to build up your personal brand and your influence among your peers.
Mhm. Yeah. Right now, building a personal brand is, I won't say it's amazingly easy, but it's very easy compared to before. Um, and that's because we have things like TikTok. So the thing I tell everyone is if you want to build a personal brand, first you need to like have some type of character, like some type of character that people might want to follow or get inspired by, right? Like you don't need to be very successful. Like I wasn't successful when I started my personal brand. You just need to have good ideas and you need to have the right trajectory that
Hmm.
that they see, right? So they get inspired by it. And then what I would do is create content on TikTok. These are like short form videos that can be pretty easy to make. And then taking those videos, reposting them onto Instagram Reels. Since you literally made the video already, so you might
Hmm.
as well get double
Just
exposure.
export it.
And then,
Yeah.
yeah, take that same video and post it on YouTube Shorts, so you get triple the exposure. And then if you really want to do it, you can repost that onto Pinterest. So you have like 4 different platforms that you can post one video
One
on. So
snippet. Yeah.
it's literally like the best ROI for your time spent making content. Um, and the great thing about those platforms is like the number of eyeballs you can get is just astronomical. So it's
Hmm.
sort of like a funnel. You have all these different people that discover you, and if you make at least some type of good impact with your content, they'll follow you. They'll look forward to what you have to say, and then eventually you want to get those people to your YouTube channel. I think the YouTube
Yeah.
channel is like where you can really connect the most with your audience, and that's because of those long form
Hmm.
videos. When I say YouTube, it's a little bit different than like building a YouTube channel that's only based on shorts, because shorts viewers on YouTube are not as devoted to you, so it's not as good of a community.
Hmm.
Eventually, you'll want to start doing long form content
Longer
on YouTube.
videos.
So that's how I would. That's like the blueprint I would take to make content these days.
So you start off with the shorter content to draw people in, and then you have your YouTube as a hub for creating a community around your personal brand,
Yep.
right?
Hmm. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's exactly how I got started. I got started in late 2019, or like actually, I was trying to build my YouTube channel. I've been trying to build my YouTube channel for like a decade plus. Um,
Oh, wow.
I had a music cover channel starting in like 2008 with my sister. We would do music covers, and then eventually I tried starting a fitness YouTube channel. That didn't work out. And then in 2017 or 2018, that's when I started to post like personal finance stuff on
Yeah.
my channel. So yeah, I've tried building YouTube many times, and finally, like it worked.
Yeah. Finally clicked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now a question from Bal in the chat. They asked if you had any mentors or mentorship figures who helped you get started with your own business.
So I didn't. I really wish I did, but I'd say that like starting in 2017, that's or 2017, 2018, that's when I started getting more into like following entrepreneurship or entrepreneurs on social media. I would sort of use them as my mentors. And of course, they don't know me. I'm just consuming their content. But you can be like mentored by like people that you follow on Instagram. You can be
Hmm.
also mentored by people, books that you read. You can be mentored by
Yeah.
YouTube videos, like interviews with other entrepreneurs. I think like the definition of mentorship is becoming more broad these days. It doesn't have to be like an old guy that has like 50 years of entrepreneurship experience, like talking to you
Yeah.
right next to you, right? Like there's different types of mentorship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
speaking
I'd
of
say,
books, Ethan asks if you have any book recommendations.
I mean, the first 2 books that like really changed up my whole like habits and lifestyle was The Compound Effect and also Miracle Morning. So compound effect just talks about like how all your daily habits like build on each other, and it's really important to be like consistent. Um, and then like the same thing with bad habits, like those also compound and will result in exponential growth downwards.
Mhm.
So important to know that. And then the Miracle Morning, just in 2019, I just completely changed up everything I did. Like I shifted all my habits, and that was the book that encouraged me to do that. I just started waking up at like 5 a.m. every single day and doing
Yeah.
the whole wake up early, do a morning routine, do work, and then just like
Take a
changing
cold
things up.
shower. Yeah.
Cold shower, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Reading, writing in a journal, doing affirmations, visualizations, all that stuff.
Mhm.
So those are two really big books that had like a pretty big impact on myself.
Yeah. Yeah. So now another question from Jonathan. He asks if you used an attorney or a CPA to help with starting and monitoring your business.
I didn't. I mean, I do have a CPA right now. I also have like a tax strategist that I've worked with. But for most people, I mean, I don't think you'll need um, like a lawyer or attorney or anything like that. Just do a side hustle, make money, and then either just learn how to file your own taxes, since they probably will be pretty easy, and you can do it with something like quick
Like
click
TurboTax,
TurboTax,
something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
or Tax Act or whatever. Um, and and yeah, so I didn't have any of that when I was starting, and I actually
Mhm.
didn't have an accountant until just a few years ago, I think.
Yeah. So it's easy to get started, is what you're saying, and then you only really need one when it gets more complex and bigger.
Yeah, I'd say
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, that makes
Yep.
sense.
And then if you want like, advice on that stuff or accounting help or whatever, there's so many different platforms you can use, like Bench, or
Yeah.
you can like one of my really good friends, Carlton Dennis, does tax YouTube. So all his videos are just about like tax strategy, all that stuff.
Yeah,
So
a lot of online
tons of free
resources.
info. Mhm.
Mhm. So now another question from Kelvin. He asks if you've ever fallen into a sunken cost fallacy where you spend a lot of time and resources on something that, in hindsight now, you feel like is a bad investment.
Um, Man, that's hard because I get the whole sunken cost thing. And I've definitely like experienced businesses where I was like, I put in all this effort, like, should I really stop it? But
Mhm.
you just have to think, you just have to be sort of optimistic about it and be like, okay, it's okay if I like shut down this business or whatever. I learned things from it. Write down
Yeah.
all the things you learned and just vow to never make those mistakes again. Right. So I think like for me, the biggest one was Charge, which was my clothing brand. That was the one that I lost like $25,000 on, and just like so much of my time.
Yeah.
I even like traveled to Asia like multiple times to meet with the factories and like tour different manufacturers and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Um, so that was a big loss for me. But I mean, like I'll share with you guys my lesson from that one, and that was just that like marketing is super important. You can have the best product, but if you don't have the right marketing, no one's going to find out about that
Yeah.
product, and they won't have the benefit of trying it out, right? So,
Mhm.
like you owe it to yourself and your business to focus a majority of your efforts not on just like getting the website right, like making the clothes perfectly shaped and whatever. Instead, focus on the marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Another question in the chat from Brian. He asks if you ever feel the constant need to think of the next step or the next business move, and if there's any potential downsides to over planning.
Hmm. So I'm always thinking about. So I like to think of it as like I wear these glasses that allow me to see different opportunities, right? So when I get in that mode, I just am constantly looking for ways I can build my business, expand it. For example, when I watch content, it's not to just enjoy it. It's
Mhm.
also I watch content thinking like, how can I take this idea and apply it to my own business, or how can I do my own version of this type of content, right? And that a lot of really, really great things have come from that. So I think it's really important to always be searching for those opportunities, because they're not going to come to you. Like, opportunity is not just going to like drive itself to your door and just open the door for you. Like, you have to like drive and go find it. And the more you do that, the luckier you get. So yeah, entrepreneurship is a lot of luck, but a lot of that luck is built from like the active hustle of
Yeah.
trying to find things, right? And
Yeah.
then going to like the over planning thing. Yeah, I think that's something that I've been pretty grateful for. I'm an overthinker, but when it comes to like starting things, I tend to just move pretty fast.
Yeah.
I don't think about like all the different things I'm gonna need to figure out and all that stuff. I sort of just jump off the cliff and then build my parachute like while flying down. And I think as long as you have the resources, which most of us do with like an internet connection and a laptop, we can figure out things as we're doing it
Yeah.
and learn along the way. Yeah.
You can make your own luck, right? You just go for
Yeah.
it.
And yeah, never fully prepare for something. I feel like if you're fully prepared for something, I mean, that's great, but then you could have probably started like
Yeah.
many months ago, or you might not ever start, because I feel like a lot of people plan so much and then they just get burnt out and then they just never end up doing it.
So now another question from Kelvin. He asks if you would ever consider going back to university for a finance degree or an MBA now or even in the near future.
Personally, I wouldn't. I don't really care about the whole like degree thing. Like, it does sound good to like have a PhD or like MBA or whatever, right? But I think I view things in terms of like ROI. And yes, I could spend like 2 years getting my MBA and however much it costs. But I think for most people, you'll get a better ROI just networking yourself and then using that money to start your own businesses.
Yeah.
You can start a lot of different like businesses, especially like service-based businesses, with that tuition money. So I think almost guaranteed, like if you take whatever 100 grand or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and invest it into yourself and your endeavors, you should come out ahead.
So it comes down to the return on investment for you then. The
Yeah.
time and the money, you feel that you could produce a lot more if you just did something that you liked instead of just going back to graduate school.
Yeah. So that's just my personal opinion. Just like, that's why I probably would not get my MBA or go back to school. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So now moving on to a more personal question. Since you decide your own work hours, how do you balance your own personal interests with your work?
Um, so my daily schedule is completely all over the place. That's like one good thing about entrepreneurship, but also one bad thing. Um, I don't really have anyone looking over my shoulders, so I can't like I need to hold myself
Yeah.
accountable. So that's why I try and time block and I know this is a little bit off topic, but I try to like live my life like a pretend like you're in a movie, right? And someone's watching it. Like, are you going to like do the things that like are you gonna like play video games for like 6 hours a day? If it's a movie, like that'd be super, super boring, right?
Yeah.
So whenever I like try and do something, or whenever I do activities, I think like is this gonna add to my movie? Is it gonna help
It's going to
me
be
get to where I
interesting.
want? Yeah. So I know that was a little bit off topic, but
I like the analogy. It's really good. Yeah.
yeah. But in terms of my own interests, I mean, I feel like I have a good amount of free time, especially now that I've built a team and I don't need to necessarily work as much as when I was doing everything myself. So I can, go golfing whenever I want. I don't really golf, but I don't know why I thought of that. I can hit the gym.
Yeah.
I can go eat lunch with a friend. It's a really, I think, great way to live, at least for me. And I don't really have a sense of like weekend and weekday. Like they all sort of blend together. So I
Yeah.
never really know what day it is. And that's
So
sort of like
it's
how
just
I live.
flexible, right?
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
completely flexible, and you choose how you want to go about it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. So now a question from Jihua in the chat. She asks if they want to know if you have any suggestions for Gen Z if they pursue a non-traditional career path like yours, and that if you got any criticism from your Asian parents.
Yeah, it's hard with Asian parents, immigrant parents, because I mean, what worked for them uh, doesn't necessarily have to be the only thing that works for you. So it makes sense why parents want us to go into these traditional fields, right? Like it's very, very logical, right? It's literally like a guaranteed great career that pays
Hmm.
a lot of money
Yeah.
and high prestige. So I don't want to like knock any of the parents for wanting
Yeah.
us
Of
or
course.
wanting
Hmm.
Gen Z or their kids to do something. But if you're Gen Z or if you're young and you're trying to like show your parents that you want to do something, I think first communicate. I think Asian households, we're not the best at communicating our emotions and our like
Hmm.
desires.
Yeah.
So that's like a big thing. And then also like prove them wrong, right? Like take action, build your own side hustle, start making some money or whatever,
Hmm.
and show them. And they just need to be exposed to it because they didn't grow up with it. Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah. It's
couldn't
all
make
they know.
money like
Hmm.
yeah, you couldn't make money dancing on TikTok
Yeah.
2 years ago or like making content or
Yeah.
doing copywriting or whatever.
In the previous
So
generations, it's all the traditional jobs, right? Like being a
mhm,
doctor or an engineer or lawyer.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think most of the desirable jobs I think of if I were to do them would be something that you can do on your laptop, meaning you can do it from home and then you can also do
Hmm.
it like from anywhere in the world.
Yeah. You
So
could be on
that to me
vacation,
is
right?
yeah,
And
like
work there. Yeah.
move to Bali, like just work there.
Yeah.
Um, that to me is like what success is. It's not necessarily how much money you make.
Hmm.
I think like the time thing and just like not having to be on someone else's schedule is the best part of it.
Yeah. So now a question from Jonathan. He asks, "How did you recruit trustworthy teammates and/or partners?"
Definitely something I'm learning to do since I'm not a natural hirer and like leader. But I think it's just to like for me, it was not too bad because I reached out to my audience and people that watch my stuff are just going to be like a little bit more devoted to
Yeah.
my cause and my business and stuff. Um, but I'm trying to think. The biggest thing is like their willingness to like learn and at least for my business, it's to like be creative and do things without me necessarily having to give them every single step by step direction, right?
Hmm.
um so that for me has been like really helpful in like the hires that I've made. And talking about hiring is a lot less expensive than you think. um there's platforms like onlinejobs.ph where you mostly hire people in the Philippines. There's sites like Upwork and Fiverr. If you hire out of the United States, it's very possible to hire people for between like $2 to $8 an hour. Like
Yeah. Just
that in a lot of
outsource.
countries, yeah, is like a very solid um a wage. So I know like my one of my editors is in the Philippines and I pay him $8 an hour. Like I know he's crushing it right now. And like we're extremely lucky because we're using the dollar.
Hmm.
So it doesn't like cost me that much to have someone else do the work. Um yeah, so just a little tip about hiring.
Hmm.
If a budget is a concern, just try and hire overseas.
Yeah. Yeah. There's lots of freelancing websites that you use that you just recommended that people can
Mhm.
use.
Yeah.
So now a question from Cindy. She asks, "What kind of skill set do you feel is the most important as an entrepreneur?"
Ooh, yeah, it's gonna depend on what you're doing. For me, writing has been one of the really, really important skills that it sort of like applies to everything. I think I was always like a pretty strong writer growing up, and I like spent time writing things. So that's helped me a lot. I think that also applies to a lot of the service-based jobs that people can do to get into
Mhm.
entrepreneurship. Right? Like there's so much text that needs to be written,
Yeah.
and if you're good at that, you can storytell, you can like be concise, you can just write with good flow. Then that is very, very helpful. It's gonna apply to a lot of different things.
Mhm. Yeah. And now a question from Chen in the chat. They ask, how can younger kids grow transferable skills no matter what career path they take? And how can parents help support them in developing these skills?
Just grow transferable skills. Um, I think it's for me it was just being curious. Like I've always just been curious about doing everything, and I would spend hours reading photography forums to like learn photography and look at other people's pictures. I'd spend hours watching YouTube, learning things. Um, I think just having different hobbies allows you to learn skills. And yeah, just lucky for me, like a lot of the skills or things I want to do also happen to pay well. Um, but yeah, I'm not sure if that answers the, oh, how can parents support them? Um, I'd say that like my mom, I feel like was so amazing because she encouraged my sister and I to just try everything. She made us do every single sport. We did chess, we did art, we did like
Music?
piano, clarinet,
Mhm.
everything. And I think doing that gave me like the drive to like be creative and wanted to learn new skills and stuff. So
Mhm.
like I think if you're a parent, like encourage your kids to try a lot of different things, like different hobbies and extracurriculars. That's going to make them really well rounded and make them, I think, want to learn more skills.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think my mom raised me like exactly how I'd want to raise my kids if I had kids in the future. Just like encouraging them to try everything and um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Uh,
she wasn't super tough on me on like grades and stuff. Like my sister and I still did really well in school, but we never felt like super pressured to
mhm.
get only A's or like spend X hours studying or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That can really help. There, like,
Hmm.
no pressure on you during your journey in high school and university.
Yeah.
And now a question in the chat from Ruthie about your writing skills. They ask if you can share how you developed your strong writing skill and if you did perhaps anything special that contributed to this writing skill.
Um, I mean, I think I just always took writing in school pretty seriously, so that's where I got like a good foundation for my writing. But I think most of the like very applicable writing skills that I developed were just from building my own businesses. For example, like tutoring, I had to get good at writing because I'd help people write essays. Um, when I was doing Amazon FBA, which is like a type of e-commerce, I
Mhm.
had to learn like sort of like copywriting and how to make product descriptions, all that stuff. Um, Making content, I need to learn how to story tell. So all these different things, like that's what I was saying. Writing is such a cool skill because it's gonna help you with pretty much anything you do. But for me, it's just like getting a good base with school, right? And then just doing different businesses and
Mhm.
learning from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are down to around our last 5 minutes. So if you have any last questions, put them in the chat. We'll go over our last few questions. Thank you. So Ethan asked in the chat, what attributes do you think set you apart from others and contributed to your success?
I don't think I'm very like special. Back to what I was saying before with like being curious about things. I think I'm very curious about skills and trying things. Um, that really helped. Also, my barrier to like my I'm very risk averse when it comes to like gambling, so I absolutely hate gambling. But when it comes to betting on myself or trying something, I have like literally no problem failing.
Hmm.
That's why I failed so many times, but those failures are like sort of what helped me get to where I am today. So yeah, just curiosity, not caring about failing, and just taking action on a lot of different things. I think I don't I don't get like stuck on details. I just try and do things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's really a powerful message. I feel like gamble, but on yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because man, gambling, the house always has the advantage, unless you're counting cards. But when you're gambling on yourself, like you can literally control
Hmm.
majority of what happens,
Yeah.
and you're learning skills along the way. So
Now a question from Cindy, if you're comfortable with it. Could you share your parents' background and how they supported you when you first decided to start your own company?
okay, yeah. My parents are both from China, and they came here when they were like in their mid to late 20s for grad school, and that's where they had us here in the United States. And my mom is a statistician and my dad is a software engineer. So both like really great careers.
Hmm.
And then the second part, when they supported me, I mean, my mom is like my biggest supporter. She watches every single video I put out. Um, there was some, of course, hesitancy when I first started doing things.
Yeah,
Um,
because it's a
but
big change, right? From
yeah,
going to the doctor path to your own
but yeah,
entrepreneurship.
yeah. But both my parents gave me like my dad and my mom both gave me like I think the right amount of stress and pressure after school. So sometimes it was a little bit like I felt like really bad and not um, like worthy, I guess, because all my friends were like making money and whatever. But they didn't stop me. They they're just like go for it, and but they did give me that like pressure of like you need to figure out what you want to do and do it well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Another question on your writing from Kelvin. He asks, what sort of writing are you talking about? Is it more literature style writing, or is it more marketing or narrative writing?
Yeah, so if we're talking about like applicability to like the real world and like making money, then the marketing writing is going to be a little better, right? For me, there's also like the creative storytelling and stuff like that, and knowing how to write a script for a video versus like for a blog. I forgot to mention, I used to have a blog where I did personal finance that also failed, but that did help me like learn to write things. Um, yeah, writing where you can use that writing for like getting eyeballs or getting attention. That today is going to be the most applicable, at least for what I do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So now a final question. Looking into the future, where do you go from here, and do you have any plans?
My plans are my biggest like passion in life is to inspire people to like work for themselves, and because I know so many people were in my same boat where they sort of felt like pressured to go into a certain career path that they didn't necessarily have the most passion for. So I feel like so many people could benefit from being inspired to start a side hustle or start working for themselves or whatever, right?
Mhm.
I feel like I can greatly change the trajectory and lifestyle for someone's life. So my whole goal is to sort of make that type of education a little bit more mainstream and accessible. And yeah,
Yeah,
so I'll just continue doing what I'm doing. I'm going to start building more types of like education and like courses, and we'll sort of see. Like I really don't have like a set like 5 or
concrete
10 year
plan.
goal
Mhm.
because I think it could completely change. But that's like the beauty of it.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, that is our time for today. It really flies when we're having such a great discussion. I understand that a lot of people in the chat still have questions for Charlie, so please subscribe to his YouTube channel, follow his social medias. The link and the notice are in the MyT.Coach WeChat groups as well as the website. So our time is up today. Thank you, Charlie, so much for sharing your stories and your insights with us. We should definitely have more follow-up and in-depth conversations on how to choose your own career path and how to build your own personal brand name. Once again, thank you to Charlie. Thank you to everyone who joined us today. Now I'll hand over the mic to Kathy, who will use Chinese to talk about a few group coaching classes for people's career advancement. If you could unmute, Kathy.
谢谢 Charlie， 谢谢 Leo。Charlie 最后讲到了哈，他未来的计划怎么样 inspire many others。所以大家看到哈，他12 different ways making money， 他是 super busy。所以非常感谢你今天花时间来这里跟父母们、跟孩子们、跟年轻人们无条件的分享。Leo 也非常感谢你主持今天的活动。这样子哈，以后我们再会邀请 Charlie 回来，有可能帮大家做一些 group coaching 啊，或者是 training class。就像 Leo 刚才讲的 ，follow Charlie's YouTube， 他真的是分享了很多大家可以作为参考的信息啊，怎么样 be an entrepreneur。当然 Charlie 有很多观点哈，很多父母啊孩子可能就跟我们 traditional 的是非常不一样，是吧？读大学到底有多重要？你的专业到底有多重要？你是不是要去读 MBA？ 你是不是要去拿一个 PhD？ 这些都是 debatable conversation。当然，这个是因人而异啊。其实我们在这里做这个分享，并不是说要每一个孩子都向 Charlie 学习，都是去 find many different ways to making money。那有些父母就担心了。说我是要我的孩子做 doctor， 我要我的孩子做律师，我要我的孩子做 scientist。最重要的Charlie 分享的信息就是说，你怎么样找到你的 passion， right？ 怎么样 chase your dream？ 怎么样 in control， right？ You want freedom。所以非常感谢。那有一点在线的父母们和孩子们应该深有体会的就是 how much Charlie appreciate his parents, especially his mom。 所以我想如果我是你妈妈，我可能就哭了而且说以后培养孩子也是像妈妈培养自己那样，这是对一个妈妈最大的肯定。虽然我认识他妈妈，其实他妈妈真的是非常好的心血，当然他妈妈是根本没想到说 Charlie 走这条道的。他妈妈，你的妹妹上的哈佛大学，就是他妈妈是想孩子上名校啊，做名医啊，还是像我们很多父母一样。但是查理做的他自己的选择，他妈妈真的父母都是在无条件的支持，所以这也是我们做父母们可以借鉴的地方。我觉得以后有机会也可以请你父母来分享怎么样无条件的支持你的选择。好吧，非常感谢你们两位。那在线的朋友们，我们的 MyT.Coach， 也就是说，你在职场上不知道往哪走，你到底该做什么选择的时候，然后你 stuck in your career， 在这里可以 hire coach， right？这样的话就是帮助你 relieve your stress， 而且这里好多 coach 是 very accomplished， 都走过了不同的道路，就是经常开玩笑说几百年的这些experience 聚集在那，能够帮助你。这些都是对我们华人一代二代非常关心，也非常愿意帮助大家成长的。MyT.Coach 你放一下Fredma， 就是生物制药，我们现在有一个 group coaching， 都是 director Senior Director VP 的一个 circle 的 class， 所以大家还有几个名额，这个周四就开始Fredma马上要做另外一个公司的 CEO 了，所以欢迎大家参加。不单只是一个 networking， 而且它是真的是将大家的问题都搬出来，然后怎么样 advance。这个是给生物制药行业的，所以还有2天就开这个 group class 了，欢迎加入。另外的话 Michelle 就是 Microsoft 的 coach， 主要是讲the science of be happy。 所以很多人说，哎呀，你在工作上要成功的话，你能不能够有 happy 呢？所以 happiness 跟工作也是可以一起的啊。MyT.Coach 请放一下 Michelle 的 class， 他这个 class 在 Microsoft 的内部是非常成功的，而且大家也是有很 strong 的 endorsement， 特别是一个 super special， 本来是40 credits， 现在是10个 credits， 所以你有兴趣，你要看 details， 就上 MyT.Coach 看这个 Science of Happiness， 好吗？欢迎大家参加。然后MyT.Coach 有 private coaching、group coaching、training class， 我们高效沟通晋升，大家也叫黄埔军校，我们已经是到第8期了，已经将近300名学员。我们本来说第8期就结束了，现在好多人强烈提出说这堂课一定要继续，不单只是学到了几门特别有用的知识，而且这些学员们每个星期都可以有讨论，来自北美各地世界各地的朋友们可以一块讨论，所以建立了一个非常 strong 的 network。所以我们现在有可能第9期会开放，所以也欢迎大家关注。谢谢大家，我们在这里一代2代共同成长 ，be happy, be healthy。另外的话，如果还没有加入 MyT.Coach 群的，请加入 MyT.Coach 的 WeChat group。MyT.Coach, please put the MyT.Coach 的 WeChat group。所以没有加入，如果已经在1、2、3群里面的，就没有必要加入了。在这些群里面的话，我们的信息都会发出来。最重要的是要大家 sign up MyT.Coach 的 free membership。这样的话，你可以看到好多 coaches 分享的 article， 也可以看到在全美各地线上线下的活动。我们刚刚在华盛顿美国华人大会上，大家有一个线下的聚会，都聊得特别欢快哈，来自各地的朋友，特别是我们 VIP 的不少学员们一块聚集在一块儿。另外，大家有非常清楚 be happy, be healthy, stay fit。那如果有兴趣加入开心健身群的朋友，请扫一下开心健身群的码。开心健身我们今天已经是843天了，每天继续哈，大家都在逆生长 high energy, be happy, be healthy。我们在华盛顿，大家也看到2代的高中生和大学生跟着我们一起开心健身，非常的棒，所以欢迎大家加入。OK， 星期2时间也比较晚了。Good night。每个星期2西部时间的6点，欢迎大家自荐和推荐 speakers。我们华人一定要大家看到不同的人是怎么成长，有什么可以相互学习的地方，好吗？谢谢大家。再次感谢 Charlie， 再次感谢 Leo， 感谢 AFI， 感谢龙鹰卫视，谢谢所有 MyT 的 coaches， 谢谢大家。Good night。我们在这待1-2分钟，朋友们可以在 chat box 里头看其他人的信息，好吗？所以通过 Charlie 的谈话父母们不要有太多 stress 孩子并不一定要上什么 top school， 并不一定要花那么多钱上 private school 才会有前途。其实很多是 self-made， 很多知识也是可以自学到的。It's different times now。谢谢大家，谢谢季华，我们好像有不少 VIP 的学员们在线上啊。谢谢大家 ，Cindy、Kevin， 谢谢 June， 谢谢所有积极发言的朋友们。